Saturday Simulcast. I want to thank our sponsor, and of course, the Union Club Hotel at Purdue. An autograph collection retreat blends student-run hospitality with resort luxury. Enjoy the spa, Boiler House Prime dining, and Burke Boilermaker Golf. A little bit snowy in West Lafayette for that right now, but perfect for the wellness and Purdue fans as well as leisure seekers. Our property offers serene escapes. Book your getaway today as well. All right, I will bring it in on this GoldandBlack.com Saturday Simulcast, December 6th edition. Of course, the big Purdue basketball game this afternoon. Today's topic, football and National Signing Day, which was Wednesday. Mm-hmm. I don't know, guys. You have to get used to this new calendar, and I think the coaches are doing the same. But Coach Barry Odom inks 21 in his class. Dub, just I'll go to start with you and our recruiting guy, just in terms of your overall impression, not only of how Barry handled the press conference, but the impressions on the class.
Yeah, I think starting with the class, I'm encouraged by the group that Purdue was able to bring in. I think it's hard for any staff when you go 2-10, coming off a 1-11 season. It's going to be really hard for you to recruit. And so I think considering that, they did a really good job, especially down to the wire. I thought, Wednesday, they had a really, really, really good day, all things considered. Getting Jet Goldsberry to flip from Ole Miss, getting Josiah Hope to flip from Louisville, keeping Armari Towns, which is something that I thought was kind of out of the question. I did not think that he would stick with Purdue. I know they lost a couple guys, but the class that they brought in overall is not going to wow you with the 4 and 5 stars that some people want. But I think consistently Purdue's always had those 3-star guys that they can get in there and develop. So I think those are the kind of expectations you need to have when you look at a recruiting class, especially just where this program is right now. I gotta say hats off to Barry Odom and his staff, because some of the wins they got, like Goldsberry and Hope and Towns, Cottrell Webb, those aren't guys that typically go to 2-10 football teams. So I think they did a really good job on the recruiting front, and they still might not be done either.
Yeah, Tom, you've been through a lot of these over the years, and Barry Odom was, and no one ever says they don't like their recruiting class, and though this one is not ranked highly in terms of the On3 rivals rankings, but what were your impressions, not only Wednesday afternoon, but moving forward?
I think they ranked 13th in the Big Ten by rivals On3, which
I guess isn't all that bad, really. Well,
yeah. Not too bad. Like Dub said, 2-10, 10 losses in a row. They certainly can sell opportunity at Purdue, and yeah, I kind of echo a lot of things Dub said. They finished strong, and this class got that huge boost, like Dub alluded to, by getting those 2 late flips. Goldsberry and Hope, man. The 2 best players in the class, according to our recruiting experts at the home office in Nashville. Hope number 1 and Goldsberry number 2. So that gives you a feeling that Purdue still resonates, with these recruits. I know Dub likes Brock Brownfield, another in-state recruit. I think Purdue got 4 in-state recruits in Brownfield from that power New Palestine. Is a guy I think Bub and I both think could be a special player at some point. So yeah, overall I think pretty good. And like Dub said, not done yet. Steve Wilfong says Purdue's courting a quarterback who was committed to Virginia Tech, a kid named Cole Bergeron. So who knows if they can make some traction with him, a 6'4" passer. I think he was a 4-star player from Louisiana. So not sure how Corn Berry feels about that, the one quarterback who signed on Wednesday. But you always want to try to upgrade your roster, and of course the Boilermakers may not be done here when it's all said and done.
Yeah, how big? I mean, it's so crazy with the roster. You really have no idea. At least I don't have an idea how many slots they have. I mean, how much, Dub or Tom, do you have any idea if they do expand in this early period? How many more slots they have, or is that just an impossible question? Dub, I guess I'll give you the first crack at that.
I asked Barry yesterday whether or not we could see any more high school recruits added to the class, and and he said it was possible. And obviously we saw today with Bergeron, that process might already be started with their pursuit of him. But he also mentioned, the balance between finding high school guys that they really like and whether they think they can get a better guy in the portal. And that's all kind of dependent on who leaves the program in the next month or so in the transfer portal. So I think there's a lot of questions. I don't know a set number that I could give you that says Purdue can take 5 to 10 more guys or whatever the case is. I think it all just depends on who leaves in the portal in January, who's still available from the high school ranks and the JUCO ranks going into that February period. And that balance of finding which guy they like more. I think it's maybe a case-by-case basis. Some guys, some high school guys, they might take over others. So, I think it's all kind of up in the air, which I know isn't a great answer, but, Barry Odom talked about, and he's continued to talk about the retention of the roster and not really knowing who's going to be back at this point. So I think once January hits and the portal opens, I think we could get some more answers on that front.
Yeah, you look at that, and obviously that's the elephant in the room for everybody is the portal and what will be ahead for that. But what do you take? And Tom, I know that Barry Odom, when he came in, still would like to use high school players as his foundation, I guess is the term he'd use, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit. Is that realistic? Hard to do? Something you want to say when you're having National Signing Day? How do you view that?
I think it's probably realistic. I don't think you want to be taking 50 portal guys a year.
Yeah.
Just look around at that more stable programs like Iowa, for instance, and obviously Michigan, Ohio State, just within the Big Ten, those type of programs, even Minnesota. I mean, they're probably taking between 10 and 20 portal guys a year. And that's probably your sweet spot, I'm thinking. You just want to be able to supplement, I think, some roster holes you may have via the portal, maybe get some upgrades. But by and large, you don't want to be having to wholesale patch your roster every year with portal guys.
Yeah.
And the only way you can do that is by having that, like Barry Odom's alluded to, that grassroots, solid base of high school players that really are the foundation of your program. So I do think it's realistic. He said with this class, they're one step closer to having that foundation established, obviously. So we'll see, Alan. We've already seen 2 Boilermakers announce their intention to enter the portal. Jaheim Merriweather, the running back, and Stu Smith, the defensive back. So that's 2. Of course, the portal doesn't open until January 2nd, so they can't officially enter until then. But we're probably going to see a flurry of social media posts from these guys announcing their intention to enter the portal. Barry Odom talked about that yesterday. He said he's really not sure. They've had exit interviews with everybody, but he says he could leave that meeting yesterday and look at his phone and could have 10 messages from guys saying, "Hey, I'm out of here." So
yeah,
it's just sort of a lot of up in the air aspects to the roster right now, and he's looking for clarity too moving forward. Once he gets a good idea of who's going to retain and who's going to leave, then that'll have that target for portal guys he's going to need to add. So I think we should start hearing from some portal guys, as far as I should say veterans who are going to be retained here shortly, you would think. But guys, the big position everybody's wondering about is quarterback, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What's Purdue going to do at quarterback in 2026? Is Ryan Brown going to be a guy they bring back? Is Malachi Singleton going to be a guy? Or are they going to get to the portal? So that's going to be really telling and fascinating to see what they do with that position.
Yeah, and guys, both up at the dais on Wednesday, Butler Benton and, of course, Brandon Lee, and that all-important talk about not only rev share but NIL possibilities. And, again, reiterated that Purdue's got everything it needs. I mean, and yet also you guys have talked about that in your story as well, in the fact that this is the question that's asked of every prospect coming in. Dub, your thoughts on that, and then we'll and I'll probably survey both of you in this one in terms of the general feeling and what you hear on on the trail when you're talking to guys about what Purdue's situation is.
Yeah. So, as far as, the talk of prospects and recruits that I've at least talked to and interviewed, that doesn't come up a whole lot with me.
Yeah.
That's not something that I really gravitate towards. A lot of guys are pretty hush about it as well. I think for any program, there's going to be a number of guys out of the high school ranks that probably deserve a little bit of cash. I don't know that you can give all of those guys money and still have a sufficient amount for the transfer portal, because that's where, especially right now, where you're going to spend your big dollars, right? If you're Barry Odom and Brandon Lee and those guys. So, I think you got to reserve a significant chunk of your money for the transfer portal, because, a lot of these freshmen, they're not going to see the field until year 2, year 3. And that's something that Barry kind of talked about yesterday as well, in terms of kind of when he wants guys to start emerging and get on the field. It's very rare that you're going to have true freshmen out on the field. So I don't understand the notion that you would give them a bunch of money to sit there and develop and not play. I think you can go out and get a starting cornerback or starting linebacker or starting quarterback or whatever position that you need. And you can pay big dollars for those guys to come in there, and you've seen them produce at the college level. You need to, and those guys are going to be able to come in there and potentially produce right away. So as far as the high school recruiting goes, I don't hear a whole lot of the NIL talk. Obviously that's a big deal in the transfer portal. But Purdue's going to have a handful of guys out of the high school ranks that probably deserve a little bit of money. Yeah,
and in fairness to your questioning, and when you talk to those guys, it's like, well, just how much money are you making? I mean, it's not a question I get that's realistic when you're talking about prospects and what their interest is in that. But Tom, is something obviously you've followed closely, and Brandon Lee being the general manager, and of course Butler Benton's relatively new role as the executive director. And it's a little bit hard, and I don't know how you explain and maybe the difference between what those two guys are doing in terms of their role, and then also your view on Purdue's financial situation there.
Yeah, it was interesting. They had Benton up there with Brandon Lee, and of course Brad Odom, who's the high school guy.
Yeah.
In addition to Barry on signing day on Wednesday. And, the way I kind of understand it is it's Benton's show.
Yeah.
I mean, I tried to ask Barry a pointed question about that yesterday. And of course he says it's a group effort. And I'm sure everybody's got some input, right?
Yeah.
But Benton was brought in here to steer the ship as far as building a roster goes. He's a talent evaluator. Get that guy. Let's get that guy. So again, I think he's going to be the guy that people answer to. And Brandon Lee's obviously going to be involved to a degree, I think, with evaluating guys. But I think he's going to be maybe more of a financial guy. Starts talking dollars and cents. Right? I don't think Ben's going to be a guy who's talking dollars and cents. He's just saying, hey, you get this guy, and then you guys figure it out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like picking out a new car and having your wife figure out the finances. I want that car.
Yeah.
Figure out how to make it work. So, and then again, Barry Odom, the position coach, I'm sure they're all going to be involved in looking at film of these guys. But that's sort of the structure, I think. And yeah, I thought there were, you asked a question yesterday of Barry, and I think that he provided that question provided the money quotes from signing day. And Brandon Lee, straight from my story, we have everything that we need in order to compete with the best of the best, not only in our conference, but across the country as well. And then, how often is money mentioned, rev share money mentioned when recruiting? Barry Odom said, it's every single conversation.
Yeah.
It's, not that those quotes are big shocks, but to actually hear people verbalize it. And it's, it's kind of refreshing. And so there you go. So it's not a big shock that the minute they start wooing Alan Karpik's son, Alan's going, what are you going to pay my son, huh? So, of course, Barry Odom.
I would, yeah.
He doesn't want guys who are just about the money. Yeah, we get that too. But again, the money's awfully important. The better players. I'm sure that played a factor with Josiah Hope and Jack Goldsberry. I'm sure that played a factor. Put another zero behind that check, right? So again, it is what it is, and more power to these guys to get what they can get. But again, we all know about the rev share money, right? What's there in addition to that?
Yeah,
that's the $64,000 question. With no more Boilermaker Alliance, with this suddenly taken in-house, does Purdue have a pot of $10 million in addition to the rev share money they can spend to build a roster? Because that's what the really good teams have. They're not just spending the $17 million of rev share money the school gave them. They also have a giant pot of money in addition to that. So again, I'm not sure, but they're telling us they've got everything they need. So we have to assume there must be another pot of money under Mike Bobinski's desk there that they can dip into, in addition to rev share money, to help build this roster. So the proof will be in their actions. The proof is always in everybody's actions, not their words. And the portal opens January 2nd, and we'll see what Purdue does as far as bringing guys in here at that point.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because the NIL front, obviously, Purdue can help broker those deals. It's whether there's, like you said, money out there in the marketplace for these guys is going to be an interesting thing to to watch, behold, or watch take off here down the road. Because yes, you certainly get the sense around the country that there's a lot of that, and that if you're going to be competitive, you've got to have a strong NIL presence, and that means a strong business corporate support. And that's something that I know that Learfield or Purdue Sports Properties has worked on, but it's not something that they disclose or that they give us a whole laundry list. It can be, and it is pretty private in terms of how that comes about. Okay, I want to talk about as we look at the offseason. Of course, Barry Odom said many times, even on Wednesday, he said, it didn't finish how we wanted. It didn't finish close, meaning the 2025 season to how we wanted. Dub, I'll start with you, but what is the thing for Purdue football in the offseason? If you're going to have to put one or two things, if you're going to look ahead, what's the thing that's got to happen for Purdue football to take a step up to a level of respectability in 2026?
I think it's something that we've kind of alluded to a couple of times already. Is just I think you got to bring in more talent out of the transfer portal. I think this is a pivotal portal period for Purdue. That alliteration, I didn't mean to do that. Yeah. I think you got to bring in a lot of talented guys that can come in and compete right away and start right away and contribute right away. That's something that you look at kind of their hits and misses last year out of the portal. They had a lot of guys that, had maybe shown promise at a high school and went to big time colleges and didn't really produce and kind of went to Purdue after that. And some of them produced, some of them didn't. I think, there's a conversation to be had about production versus potential. And that's not something that, I've asked Barry Odom about. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on it. I'd like to see them get more guys from Group of 5 schools that have really stood out, whether that's, Conference USA, MAC, Sun Belt, any of those schools or any of those conferences. If you can get some of the best guys from there and get them to Purdue and give them an opportunity to play on the big stage, I think you could see some better results. But I also think, the retention of the roster will be big as well. Just getting the nucleus of guys that you really like and you think that can continue to build the program, build it forward.
Yeah, Tom, it's there are a lot of things when you're 2-10 and you haven't won a Big Ten game in 2 years, haven't won a Power 4 road game in 3, right? Going back to Virginia Tech of all teams from a road standpoint.
Yeah.
This is what do you earmark as the thing that you think has got to be the primary focus moving forward?
You haven't won a Big Ten road game since Jeb Brom was the head coach.
Yeah, that's right.
And we could go on.
Yeah,
we can. I'll stop reciting all that.
Yeah, I know. I tend to do that too much too. But yeah, so
I got
you know what it is.
Where do I start? Football is one up front, and you got to make the offensive line better. And it doesn't matter who your quarterback is, who your receivers are. If you're no good up front, it doesn't really matter. I think they need to get better. They need to get bigger up front, and they still need to get deeper, right, and more talented. It's not cheap. Those big guys, the good big guys, are very expensive, man. So I think you got to start up front on that O line. You have a couple keepers, obviously, right? Tanona, St. John's gone. You want to probably keep Joyner, and then you need another guard, another tackle. So watch that spot. I'm watching it, and then quarterback. We could debate this endlessly, but I think they need to pursue a different quarterback. You could probably talk yourself into keeping Ryan Brown and Malachi Singleton, but I think they need to go another direction there. And then the secondary took a lot of losses back there last year. A lot of veterans are gone. It was a spotty crew to begin with. How's that unit going to look moving forward? So those are some of the position groups. And then I could throw in receiver too, probably right there.
Got to have a difference maker somewhere, yeah.
Oh my goodness, the position's kind of been an abomination. Maybe that's too strong of a word, but the last 2 years, there's nothing there. They're too easy to defend. There's no big playability. There's no explosiveness, and you got to find a way to find some special players there as well. And are you going to roll with George Burhan again at tight end? Are you going to do this dance again? Cross your fingers. Oh, cross your fingers. I don't think you can. You got to get a tight end too. So again, it's just about every position but kicker. Running back, they need at least 2 running backs. So we could talk again 60 minutes about all the portal needs, but offensive line, quarterback, and then defensive back, receiver, I think for sure are areas that need to be addressed.
All right, I'm going to come back to you, Tom, and you're going to have the opportunity to go on tonight, Saturday night, Indiana, Ohio State. It's still hard to imagine that it's Indiana, by God. And I know we should be getting used to the fact that the Hoosiers are playing for not only for a Big Ten championship, but being the number 1 team heading into the playoff. How do you see this one shaking down? Going to be a really interesting game at Lucas Oil on Saturday night for the Big Ten championship.
Need to stop rubbing our eyes and acting like we just woke up.
It is, I know.
Is that Indiana? That's really Indiana? I can't. No way. You're kidding, right? There is no way this is Indiana. It's 2 years now. This is the reality. We have to embrace it, whether we like it or not. And hats off to them, man, and Kurt Signetti. And, I think the Buckeyes are given about 5.5. I think at last I heard. I guess I got to go with Ohio State at this point, right? Defending national champs. I think they're going to find a way. I think it's going to be a close game. I think these teams are pretty evenly matched. And I think Indiana can trade punches with anybody in America. And they're going to trade punches with these guys. It could be an epic game, honestly.
Yeah.
Fourth quarter game, come down to the last possession maybe. So best Big Ten championship game matchup ever. And I was trying to think, how many times in the last 20 years have we had the number 1 and number 2 team in the country play each other?
I think Ohio State, Michigan, 2007, or was that when it was? That's about it, right?
I haven't looked it up, but again, that's how special that this game is, and it's going to be a great atmosphere down there, I think. And maybe the Heisman Trophy's won Saturday night.
Yeah, I think it's possible.
With Mendoza and Sayin, and people will hold their ballots and give it to whoever wins that ball game. So it just sets up for a great game. It doesn't really affect the college football playoff, right? As long as neither team gets blown out, each probably could get a bye still. But you still want to call yourself Big Ten champ, right? Especially if you're Indiana. So it's going to be a lot of fun, I think.
Dub, what we've watched in the last month for 4 Saturdays, I should say, dating back to November 8th when Ohio State came into Purdue and steamrolled, and we saw Indiana come in this past Friday night, or a week from Friday night, and pulverize Purdue. But What are you seeing in this one?
Yeah, I think prior to Indiana coming to Ross-Ade, I thought that Ohio State would beat them handedly. Now I'm starting to think it's going to be a really close game and one I'm excited for. I still give the edge to the Buckeyes, especially getting Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith back. That defense is number one in the nation for a reason. So I think Ohio State's still going to show why they're the upper echelon of the Big Ten. But I think Indiana, they're a lot better than last year. Maybe not a lot better, but they've improved from last year still, which is kind of wild to say. And I think that they could be poised for a pretty significant run in the college football playoff, even if they lose on Saturday. So I'm rolling with Ohio State. I think they've kind of the nucleus of that team has kind of been there, done that. And I also think, coming off that Michigan win, that gives them a lot of momentum, a lot of mojo going into Indy.
Yeah, tickets going for $500-$600 a piece. It'll be fascinating to see because we saw Ohio State infiltrate Purdue with lots of folks. We saw Indiana do the same in Ross-Ade Stadium. I don't know what to think. Ohio State is so known for spending money and traveling and go, but Indiana's got it's just right up the street, so to speak. Not that it's all that far from Columbus. Tom, it will be interesting to see when you're there, physically looking up and seeing what that crowd. Who is that crowd? It seems to me it'll be relatively evenly matched just because Ohio State, but I don't know. I mean, as we close up, any last thoughts on that?
Just that, good defense usually beats good offense.
Yeah. I
think not always, but usually. So like Dub talked about, the Buckeye defense, number one in America. And, that always gives you an edge, And, it's going to be a crazy night. I think Indiana plays basketball on Saturday in Indianapolis as well against Louisville. So if you're Purdue fans,
steer clear, right?
In Marion County, because there's going to be a lot of crimson and green. So, it's like I said, hopefully that game lives up to its hype in the old, I almost called it the Hoosier Dome, the old Lucas Oil Stadium on Saturday night.
I'm thinking it will. All right, guys, thanks so much. Appreciate all your coverage for not only signing day this week, but what looks at, even though it's a dead period for recruiting, it's going to be an extremely busy time. It'll be interesting too to see if there's any moves on the coaching staff as well, and if so, when does that happen? Because you've got the portal window opening on January 2nd as well. So enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll look forward to much more down the road at GoldandBlack.com. from both Dub and Tom. All right, we want to thank our sponsor, the Union Club Hotel, and a reminder, too, that you can become a member of GoldandBlack.com. You can like and subscribe. You can and on the podcast, give us a 5-star review. We would love that. And some specials going on. If you want to become a member during the holiday season, please do so. We would love to have you as a member of GoldandBlack.com. It's the biggest community on the internet. And you can also obviously subscribe to our YouTube site as well. So have a great rest of your weekend, and we appreciate your time and taking the time to join us on GoldandBlack.com Saturday Simulcast.
As you all know by now, Gold and Black Radio has also teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. When you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet. Offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code ON3. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code ON3 when you sign up. Make this college football season one for the history books. Make it legendary. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 and over only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that can expire in 7 days. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3 and get your $1,500 first bet offer today.